What is good, gamers? OpTic Blake here with another Call of Duty settings video. I literally walked in the door from COD Next about an hour ago. I had a blast out in DC getting to play this game, and I think we're going to like this one. But first and foremost, before you jump into the beta, there are some settings you absolutely need to get right, especially with the incorporation of Omni movement. There are some new settings, some unfamiliar lingo, and we're going to make sure that you guys are good to go to get the most out of this beta. Let's jump into it. So first and foremost, when you jump into settings, this is what it looks like. Keyboard and mouse settings are here. Controller settings are right below. That is going to depend on what input you are playing on. Just for everybody watching, I'm playing on PC with a controller input, so I'm only going to go over the controller settings. Keyboard and mouse people, you know what you're doing aim-wise. Get that all set up. So first, out the gate, we're just going to go linear top to bottom in settings. We're going to start in controller. Button layout, stick layout, sensitivity, all of this is lingo that you guys should be familiar with. I'm playing on 7.7. Simplified controls, low motor strain, and bumper ping. Simplified controls and low motor strain, are basically accessibility stuff. We're going to keep all of those off unless you need to utilize stuff like this, but if you're watching a settings video, you probably are not going to have these on. So keep both of those off, and then we're going to leave bumper ping off. If you want to swap your L1 and your L2, R1, R2, this is where you do that. Controller vibration off. Make sure trigger effect is off, or your triggers on your controller are going to give you resistance when aiming and shooting. And then this is where you also change those dead zone inputs. With the left stick min, the right stick min, and your triggers, you want these as low as possible without getting any accidental stick drift when you're not trying to move and your gun isn't just randomly shooting. So keep these as low as possible. And for both the left stick max and the right stick max, keep both of those all the way up at 99. We're going to R1, we're going to move over to aiming. Sensitivity multiplier, you can adjust this for different optics and things like that. You can also change it for score streaks and tablets and all, and when you're actually in the tablet. I'm leaving all of this at 1. I don't want to adjust any of that. The first thing we're going to look at in this panel is aiming advanced settings. This is where you're going to find that dynamic aim assist. If you are familiar with Call of Duty aim response curves, dynamic is pretty much the one that is the most popular. It is the best. So go ahead and put that on dynamic. If you want to adjust that custom sensitivity per zoom, this is where you do that. Let's say you want to play on a lower sense, but you want to up your sniper sensitivity. You would just click show more and adjust that based on the zoom that you're trying to manipulate here. Target aim assist on, ADS aim assist on, motion sensor behavior. This is gyro stuff. Keep all of this off. The main thing to get right here is your aiming advanced settings. Change that to dynamic and leave that on instant. All right, number 3, this is the big one, movement. So Omni movement has been added to this game. I'm not going to go into a whole long diatribe about it, but basically there are new dive mechanics. You can sprint in every direction, and in your dives, you can also change direction. So there's going to be definitely a new skill gap when it comes to challenging, to maneuvering around the map in general. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but you're definitely going to want to be using both slide and dive. They are both very strong in this game. So sprint assist is basically your auto sprint in this game. By default, this is off. You're going to want to put this to tactical sprint assist unless you want to just leave it to on. So basically on is just the normal auto sprint, and tactical sprint assist is your auto tac sprint. So some people don't like ATS. I personally have always used ATS. I think everybody at the top level would if they were allowed to based on league settings, but basically just think of it as on is auto sprint, tactical sprint assist is auto tac sprint. So I'm going to leave that with tactical sprint assist. In addition to the tactical sprint assist, another big thing, and it's annoying that it is this tucked away, but it is what it is, and I've got a video to make sure that this doesn't happen to you, but click show more. You got to press square, show more. By default, sprint assist delay is on 400 milliseconds. This means your character is default going to walk for 400 milliseconds and then begin auto tac sprint. Technically, you want this as low as possible, ideally on 0, but I've been hearing about an error where if you put it to 0, it will give you a delay. So you want this as low as possible. If you're on PC, just set it to 2. If you're on console, I don't know how that works with the sticks, but make sure it is as low as possible. Maybe on console, if you can only get it to like 50, just put it to 0 and then let me know. Hopefully you don't have any issues. But for sprint assist delay, you want this on tactical sprint assist delay as low as possible. Sprint assist sideways on and backwards on. And this is mantle assist and crouch assist. We want both of these off. These are basically just going to help people maneuver the new mechanics, but it's in a way that we don't want automated. Keep both of those off. Automatic airborne mantle, make sure this is on partial. Otherwise, you're going to try and jump shot somebody over a car and you're going to mantle it. This will leave it so if you're like jumping from building to building, you can mantle the building or something like that, but leave it on partial. It won't mess you up as much, but it still helps you mantle midair. Slide and dive behavior, this is what I was talking about. You want to be utilizing both slide and dive. I would strongly recommend playing on hybrid. Now, hybrid, basically, this allows you to tap to slide, but if you are inputting sprint on your left stick and then you slide, you will dive. This takes a couple games to get used to. If you think you've got the setting wrong or something, you don't. It is just muscle memory of holding your left thumb, as long as your left stick is your sprint button, which it is by default. You need to be sprinting, clicking it with the left stick, and then you press that slide button. For me, it's B on the back, and it will perform that dive. So hybrid with tactical sprint assist is the best way to get the most out of Omni movement, and that is key for Black Ops 6. Auto door peek is off. This is basically going to lean you in a little bit when you get into a door. That's a new mechanic, but we don't want to be exposing our neck accidentally, so leave that off. Movement advanced settings. I don't think I changed any of these besides the grounded mantle. So sprint behavior should be toggle. Auto move forward, we definitely want that off. Grounded mantle, I changed. You don't want to be mantling random hedges and little bushes and things like that. Turn that off. Sprint restore, I believe this is on by default, but definitely keep that on. And slide maintain sprint. This allows you to chain together all of your movement speed in your sprint. Attack sprint behavior is single tap. Plunging is trigger, and sprinting door bash is on. This allows you to break doors by sprinting through them. Vehicle advanced settings, we're really not going to use this too much in the beta at all, but this is what I have it on, just short delay and free look. And lastly, in our controller settings is going to be combat. Leave that ADS behavior on hold. Weapon mount ADS melee. Quick C4, I left it on group. Equipment hold, manual fire press. Combat advanced settings. There's basically, these are just consolidating menus. I know it's a mouthful. Pretty much all of these are what you need by default, but for me, interact and reload behavior, I do play a lot of Warzone as well, so I definitely prefer that prioritize interact so that I can just press square to loot something on the ground. So I play on prioritize interact. This means if there's nothing for my character to interact with and I press square and I need more ammunition in my magazine, it is going to reload the magazine. But if there is something, a door, a gun at my feet to interact with, it is going to prioritize that interaction over the reload. So in general, when you play on this setting, you just hold to reload, but I do prefer playing on this just in case I want a quick reload and there's nothing to interact with. Sprint cancels reload off. ADS stick swap off. Depleted on. Score streaks is numerical. Dedicated melee weapon SWAT. If you guys haven't seen in this game, every class, no matter whether or not you have a secondary or double primaries with overkill, you have a guaranteed melee weapon slot. Excuse me. And the way that you actuate this is by holding the melee button. So for me, that is right stick. For people that are playing on tactical, that will be B or circle. And you are going to hold that button and it will pull out your knife, which is very cool. Side note, Call of Duty, if you're watching, I would love to see an option to adjust this to hold weapon swap. Right now it's weapon cycle, which basically cycles you through 3 of them. I would love if we could do hold for melee. Hold weapon swap for melee. Just an idea. Swap body shield and execution behavior. I'm just leaving these on. Basically, by default, there is a thing called a meat shield in this game. You go up behind someone like you're going to execute them. If you double tap right stick, you turn them into a meat shield like this. If you hold it like normal, you're going to perform an execution. You could swap that here, but I think it makes a lot of sense because we're all used to the muscle memory from previous games with executions. And that does it for all of our controller settings. That's pretty much the meat of the video. I know that's what most people came to see. I am on PC. I'm going to scroll through these for my homies that are on PS5 that are on Xbox. Basically, in this, there's going to be a lot of terminology that does not apply to you. What you want to make sure of for my homies on console, you want to make sure that your depth of field is off. So you are going to have depth of field options and FOV, obviously. So you're going to want to make sure that you get your FOV and your depth of field and your blurs right, because I know those are on console. So the menus will look a little different to you, but just make sure world motion blur, weapon motion blur, first person camera movement, we want these all the way down or off, and change your FOV and depth of field as well. So just make sure you go that. For my PC homies, I'm just going to basically scroll through this. I pretty much in general keep everything as low as possible. I do play on normal textures just so the game can look a little better. My PC can hang with it, so I still get a bunch of frames. This is what I'm playing on. I'm going to scroll slowly through this. The biggest one to change for me is upscaling sharpening. I believe by default, depending on your graphics card, mine was on NVIDIA DLSS, which can help if you have an older GPU, but I am playing on Fidelity FX CAS. Fidelity FX was incorporated in, I believe, Call of Duty Vanguard. It's like LASIK for Call of Duty. You've probably heard me say that before if you've watched one of these. So I take Fidelity FX CAS. It's basically in-game sharpening. I crank that sucker all the way to 100, and it looks crispy. Besides that, depth of field, again, texture res, normal, persistent effects, shader quality, low, low, off, shadow quality, low, environment, all the way at the bottom. It's like weather grids and water quality. This is all just going to suck up frames. So off, low, off, off, off. That's pretty much the graphics settings. And for view, for FOV in this game, this is going to be on console and PC. I'm playing on 110. Generally, I would recommend anywhere over 100. A lot of Warzone players play on 120. A lot of multiplayer people play on 100 or 105. So I'm at a sweet spot at 110, and it works for me. Weapon field of view, I make this wide. This basically makes the gun slightly smaller. It's a little farther away, kind of like Counter-Strike, which basically just gives you more area of your screen to see information that you need to see. So I have both of these on wide so they don't take as much space. This is that world motion blur and weapon motion blur off. Camera movement least. Inverted flashbang. If you want to try this out, if you get flash, it'll make your whole screen dark instead of whole screen white. That's up to you, but I'm just going to leave it off. And parachute camera perspective, I'm leaving it at first person. Next on audio. Generally, I haven't really done a bunch of audio testing. Again, I've played this game for, 8 hours so far. But audio mix, what has been the best so far is soundbar. And I'm leaving my hit marker preset on default because it sounds like Cold War. It's got a good sound to it, and I like it. For your voice chat, this is where you're going to be able to change those if you R1 over to voice chat. Oh, sorry, I pressed my controller against my desk. Voice chat, this is where you want to make sure that all of your input settings, your output settings are right, and your voice chat volume can be done here as well. Our last menu that we are going to go over today is the interface. There's a couple new things in here that you guys can check out. For my guys on PC, if you want to show your FPS or you want to show your network latency and all of that, that is under telemetry. So you're going to want to show more under telemetry. And then I just keep my FPS counter on. And if you want server latency, you can keep that on too. But generally in interface, if you just leave connection meter on, you can see if you're lagging and stuff like that. For readability, I don't think I changed anything, but you can add subtitles like that if that helps you out. And you can also do color customization if you want to have funky colors or you actually need to use one of the colorblind settings. Those are here. Gameplay HUD. So this is the last kind of new iteration that Black Ops 6 has added, and it's actually extremely interesting, especially for people who stream or record content. There are different HUD presets in this game. So what this allows you to do is move around the mission objectives and the mini-map and things like that to better cater either your streaming setup or what just works for you naturally. So depending on what you're doing, if you're making content and stuff like that, some of these might be better than others. I personally am really interested in mission interface. By default, it changes that mini-map to a square. You can also change this in your settings in game, but this one by default does it, so I'm just using that. And it also puts the Warzone compass up at the top, which I kind of like the look of. So I'm going to give this a go and see which one works out for me. Another one that I am really interested in is Target Tracker. I have not tried this, but it basically puts the minimap all the way down at the bottom middle near your character's weapons. So that might be nice to not have to do this all the time, checking the minimap in public games. So if you end up trying Target Tracker or any one of these, let me know in the comments if you like one and I'll give it a go. What I was talking about with that minimap shape, if you want to adjust that, you would do that here. If you're not going to change the HUD preset, I do recommend playing on square. It lets you see a larger coverage of the minimap. I keep the rotation on. Radar, this is just like a background thing. It's not like radar always on. It's nothing crazy. The lingo's weird, but just keep it off. It's more visual clutter that you don't need. Compass type, minimap. I think I left all of these. Player names, full. Hit marker visuals on. Hit marker visuals. I think these should both be on. I also don't know why there's 2 of those, so that's probably an error. That'll probably be cleaned up, but just make sure hit marker visuals are on and damage base hit markers are on as well. Account and network stuff. You can add streamer mode if you want to hide your name. That's pretty much it, guys. All right, guys, I know that was a mouthful, but there are a lot of settings in this game, some of which have been the same throughout Call of Duty, and hopefully you're able to skip around a little bit, but I wanted to make sure everything's recorded just in case it's been a couple years since you jumped into a COD game, and there's a lot more settings than you're used to. So there it is. Those are all the settings I'm using for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I hope this helps, and let me guys know how you enjoy the beta, and if you guys would like to see a best weapon classes or anything like that, let me know down in the comments. Appreciate you taking the time to watch. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.